Hey YouTubers, good morning, Robb. Moffat. Guys, today we're going to have a video, a long video, but kind of important. Maybe one of the more important videos I've ever made in 18 years. A couple of years ago, I was going to make a book about how to save time. I was obsessed with the idea that if you could just save a few minutes a day, 15 minutes, over a period of a year, that would equal to like 80 some hours. 2 work weeks, 40-hour work weeks, by just saving a few minutes a day. And so I started making a list of all things that I realized a person could save time. And then I did some more research, and I realized probably not many people would be interested in reading that book. So I didn't want to waste my time making the book. But as I was making the list, I would occasionally think of something that you wouldn't just save a few minutes. You could save years. You could save a life by certain actions people do or don't do, waste a big chunk of their life, not just a few minutes a day. And I thought, well, that would make a book. It would make an interesting video to talk about. So here's like 22 different things that are huge, major, giant waste of your life and time. In the video description, I'll put all of them. So if you want to save time, you can just go to the video description and see the list. Also, if you do want to watch the video, you can go to that little wheel that's at the bottom of the screen, and you can go to settings and just change the speed of the video. These are in no particular order of importance, just things I thought about that are big wastes of time that I've seen in my life or other people. First one, number one, unrequited love. Sometimes people fall in love, oddly enough, and they think that this is their soulmate. Things have happened to bring them together that would rival anything you would watch in a Hollywood movie or a novel. They were fated, they were meant to be, and as time goes by, they're not in love. Future, be quiet. Shh. Hey, I'm making a video here. I'm babysitting my sister's dog, and the dog's name is Future. I'm just doing everything I can to make sure he doesn't get out of the house, and I have to go call for him and be standing outside in my 55 and over community yelling, "Come here, Future." But yeah, getting back to unrequited love, yeah, you think somebody is just going to fall in love with you if you just do something different, if you try harder. If you've done everything you can, the movie's over, the lights are on, you need to get out of the seat and go see a different movie. You don't want to spend years, the best years of your life, trying to fall in love or have someone else fall in love. The heart wants what the heart wants. And sometimes it just wasn't meant to be, even though you think it was this person was perfect for you or whatever. You can waste the best years of your life wanting to have a relationship with someone that doesn't want a relationship with you, but at the same time is not strong enough or experienced enough to break it off. So it's like, that is a huge waste of a person's time. That said, getting married with the wrong person, the wrong spouse, can waste years and years and years of your life. And even when you divorce, it can waste years of your life. There's hardly anything worse when it comes to wasting time than marrying the wrong person. And 50% of the people in America, I think, end up divorcing. And the other 50%, there's probably a huge chunk of them, they're only staying together because of the kids. So, but there are people like psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists that have studied this, and they claim that they can just listen to a couple talk or their interactions between and tell, like, within 70-80% certainty of whether or not they're going to be able to stay together long term. So there's things you can do before you marry or even before you start looking, to increase your odds of actually staying together and having a successful, functional marriage. So you waste a huge amount of time by not focusing enough time and energy on picking the right person. And then when you do get the right person, working at keeping your marriage functional. It's a constant effort. It's not it's not a book that you never read or watch again. A movie, you have to keep working at it. So you can waste a lot of time by marrying the wrong person. The wrong religion. Some people are lucky in some ways that they get to choose their religion later in life. Most people, their religion is thrust upon them when they're born. They end up becoming the religion of their parents and so on. And religion is good. I think overall it does more good than harm. But there are some people in some religions that are just not compatible, and they would have been a lot better off if they didn't have that religion, or maybe any religion at all. They're just not cut out for that. So you can waste a lot of time by being in the wrong religion. And I knew someone who was in a church, and the pastor took all of the money the church had raised and just absconded with the funds. That has to be pretty a difficult blow to the faithful. But yeah, you can waste a lot of time being in the wrong religion. It can make you do a lot of things that really wasn't compatible with what and who you were, and it didn't help you develop your relationship with God any more than any other religion. It just you want to make sure you're a good fit with the religion you're in. That's going to upset a lot of people, even talking about this subject. But yeah, I think that's a big time waster for some people. But on the other hand, I think some of the most happiest, successful, and functional people are those who have strong faith in religion. So I'm not anti-religion. Just I'm pro the right religion. The wrong job or profession, it's legion. There's you can't find a person that doesn't think about they wish they could have had a different job or profession, or they want something different. They would like to leave what they're doing and do something else, and the grass is always greener. You see airplanes flying through the sky, and half the pilots up there wish they were doing something else. It's a very lucky person that is doing exactly what they always wanted and what makes them feel alive, and challenges all of their parts of their mind, their body, their very soul. If you have somebody that is just doing what they were meant to do, that's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing. And most of us, we're just improvising. We're faking it and hoping that one day we'll find out what it is we really need to do and want to do. And so yeah, it's a shame. So many people, they never become what they could have been or should have been. There's some books out there. Years ago, a woman named Barbara Scher wrote a couple of very interesting books on how to find out what you really want to do in life. I'll leave a link to them in the video description. You can get them on Amazon, practically nothing used. But she has a couple excellent books on determining how to find out what you really want to do in life. The wrong amount of kids. You're not going to agree with me at all, but I think some people should have never had any kids at all, because they're dysfunctional family. They come from a dysfunctional family. They end up raising kids that are they can become annoying, spiteful mutants. And so the parents waste a lot of time, and then the kids grow up to be people who waste other people's time. On the other hand, there's a lot of people that either don't have kids and should have had kids. They would have been great parents, or they're great parents already, and they probably should have had more kids. So they, in that case, they didn't waste time by only having one kid, but it wouldn't have hurt them to cost them that much more time to have more kids. And because they were really good at it, they should have had more. But there's a surprising amount of really smart, good, wholesome people that don't have kids. It's criminal. If you don't have kids, you're a failure. I can say that as a failure. You didn't understand the assignment. You're here for your primary purpose in life is to perpetuate the species. And if you don't have any kids, also you live in a society, a civilization, and if you don't have kids that can function and help enhance the society and community you're in, you didn't do a good job. So there's some people that are not doing a good job. They should not have any kids, and they wasted their time and a lot of other people's. And there's other people, they should have had kids, and it wouldn't have hurt their time at all to have, well, a little bit, to actually have more. So yeah, it's kind of a waste of time. Incarceration. I think there's 2 million people incarcerated in the U.S., and it's a huge, giant waste of time. However, I do think, looking at the amount of crime that's never reported or never solved, I think there's probably a lot more than 2 million people that should be incarcerated. But it's a gigantic waste of time to ever go to jail. A judge wrote a book some years ago called How to Stay Out of Prison, or How to Stay Out of Jail. I forgot the name of it. Unfortunately, the people who really need to read that book are never going to read it. I could tell you one of the biggest, easiest ways to stay out of jail is never go to stupid places with stupid people and do stupid things, and you'll be okay 80% of the time. I just threw that figure up. I have no idea where that number comes from, but most of the time, yeah, you go to stupid places, you do stupid things, and you're with stupid people. Yeah, you're gonna get some action. You're gonna see some interesting developments. So yeah, you want to stay out of jail. It's a gigantic waste of time of so many people's life, and if only they had tried a little harder and focused differently, they would have not had the wonderful experience of incarceration. So yeah, the next thing that saves a lot of time is having the right friends. If you have the wrong friends, it's good to have friends, whoever they are, in high places or low places. It doesn't really matter, but the content of their character is the most important thing, not how much money they have for education. The content of their character. If you're hanging around really good, decent, wholesome people, but they're poor for whatever reasons, well, you might end up being poor too, but you could be worse. But the people you hang around with, if they're not positive, optimistic, if they're not supportive of you and your dreams and aspirations, and they're just like trying to bring you down and keep you from ever succeeding, then you need to get different friends. And if you look at the top 5 people you spend the most time with, that's who you become. If you look at all the things you think about all day long, that's what you become. So you want to stop wasting so much time by spending your time with people who aren't there to help you become a better person and become all you can be. The wrong location. Scott Adams, who I like a lot for many different reasons, he commented how when he was younger, he was in a small town, I think in New York State, and he moved to like the Silicon Valley area of California, and he was able to progress a lot farther than if he had stayed in his small town. His father wanted him to stay in the post office, or get a job with the post office, and so he ended up going to college, and he worked in a bank and a telephone company, and then ended up becoming a probably the most popular at the time cartoonist in America, and was successful in many areas. So if you move to where things are happening in those areas that you want to thrive in and be successful in, then you have to locate and be in areas where the community and the business world is supportive of what you want to do. It's hard to be a success in Yeehaw Junction. The next one is the most important out of them all. The waste the most time is having poor health, mental and physical. If you have poor mental health, it is at the top of everything. No matter what you do, what you are, how much you have, who you know, if you have poor mental health, it's over. Oddly enough, there's not that many resources or videos and stuff online about mental health as compared to physical health. You can throw a rock and hit a physical trainer. There's always somebody willing to tell you about their new diet or you can become healthy. But when it comes to mental health, there's still like a block of people don't talk about it as much. But it's the most important thing there is if you don't have good mental health. And I think a lot of the problems that we see in the news about people acting crazy and doing things that getting other people upset, there's a lot of people with poor mental health, and it's not called out. We'll say, well, this person, they go into other issues when it really should be people have poor mental health and they're acting in a very dysfunctional manner. And people, if you want to save time, guard your physical and mental health. And when it comes to your physical health, if you want to become more healthy, be very, very careful. I know so many people have blown out their shoulder or knee or parts of their body trying to become healthier, or they change their diet and their diet wrecks them because it's not compatible with what they've been doing or their body and so on. It's just like, you got to be careful. You could hurt yourself trying to become better, but it's important that you have good health, physical and mental. Because let's face it, if you're a healthy person, you can think of 101 things you'd like to do, that you want to do. You can think of 101 things you need or you want. If you're sick, there's only one thing you want. There's only one thing you need when you're sick. There's one thing you think about. When you're healthy, you live in one world, one country. When you're sick, you live in a different world that the people that are healthy can never imagine. They're two different places. So you got to guard your health, physical and mental, and work on it and make it better. And it's going to be something that will take time, but compared to how much time bad physical health and poor mental health is going to cost you, it's incredible. The benefits you get from having better health are going to be the most important thing you can do. The most important thing you can do. It transcends everything else. And the time you spent on other stuff is almost a distraction. I know people who live for helping other people in their families or their friends, neighbor communities, but they don't spend time on themselves and they get sick, and now all their time is focused on something that maybe, not always, sometimes could have been prevented by just focusing on their health. So it's a gigantic time waster having poor mental or physical health. Social media or any media is a gigantic, massive waste of time. The amount of time I spend personally surfing the web and so on, or even reading books. People say, "Oh, you should read so many books." Books, don't get me wrong. Books are wonderful, and everybody should spend time doing them. But you can waste your time with books too. I always say if you get one good idea from a book, it was worth the book, but it takes a lot of time to read a book. So you want to be careful with media. And also, everything out there is predicated on not brainwashing you, but making you think in a certain way about things. So you want to recognize that you're always being, right now, you're being told how to think, or giving facts that make you think one way than another. So there's always an agenda. So when you consume social media or even books, there, make sure you get out from them more than they get from you. That's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, they're a gigantic waste of time sometimes. If I think about all the stuff I do every day, the biggest time suck I have is media. Listening to things, reading things, watching things. The next time waster is commuting. For years, I would drive every day on I-95 to work, 35 minutes each way, and it was a big time suck. But it was worse than that. It was dangerous. I had so many close calls. A couple times, like one time a bus stopped on I-95. He wanted to exit, and he went across in the far left lane, and now he's going slow, and there's no place to go. And I'm slamming on my brakes, and I can't go a different lane because he straddled all the lanes. And I had so many close calls, people run me off the road. Finally, one day, I was coming down my exit, and I had a woman in a gigantic big Cadillac come up the exit ramp at me at full speed, and I realized I couldn't take it anymore. So I found there was an apartment, small studio apartment, a block away from work, so I moved. And for years, I lived up 1 block away from work. And when other people were still trying to get onto I-95, I was home with my shoes off and starting to make dinner and watching TV. So it was a gigantic saver of time by just moving closer to work. Not having goals, or as Scott Adams says, you should better off having systems. Whatever, one or the other, systems or goals, not having something written down that you want to do, or a system that you adhere to focus on areas of your life. Otherwise, you're like a chicken feather floating on a pond, and every time the wind blows, you just move. There's no direction in your life. You're just aimless, and the best years of your life just go, and they're all gone. You got to have goals, and you don't always reach those goals, but surprisingly large amount of people who actually write things down, as time goes by, they will have not all of them, but at least some of them done. Whereas if you haven't taken the time to write anything down or focus on anything, it's like a ship without a rudder. You're just aimless. You're going back and forth and this way and that way, and it's not a good way. It's not a good way to live. You waste your life, your whole life, by not having any plans or any goals for anything. If you don't reach them, it could cause you some issues, some feelings, but compared to never having any at all and finding out, well, what do you have to show for the life that you have living here in the universe, being alive in the freaking universe, and what do you have to show for it? No goals is a gigantic time suck, a waste of time. If you have no self-control, you're impulsive, and you cannot delay gratification. If you want everything now, you want what you want when you want it. You would think that would be not a time waster, because you know what you want, and you went and you got it, and you didn't think about it. You didn't suffer from analysis paralysis. You didn't think it to death. Like my boss used to say, think too long, go wrong. If you just think about something, you just do it. Well, action is extremely important. That's a big time waster, is never taking action. But by being without able to delay gratification and just being impulsive, you you're not going to be very successful. You're it's better to have some self-control and not be impulsive and do what is good in the long run than just doing for short term. Unless you're living in a society, in a culture, an area where there is no long term, then yes, just short term thinking, impulsive, live for the moment is probably the right thing to do. And then in that case, you would be wasting time by delaying. If you're not persistent, in most cases, that could be a time waster, because if you had been persistent, you would have achieved what you wanted. Otherwise, you end up going willy-nilly here or there. You're always like my old lady boss I had one time. She had someone that was a friend of hers that was always going to start this business or start that business, and she would get exasperated listening to her. She said she called her a flibberty-gibbet. I never heard anybody say that before. That wasn't funny. She's just a freaking flibberty-gibbet. She wants to do this, she wants to do that, and she tries this, then she stops, then she does this. And you got to be persistent. Otherwise, you wasted a lot of time. Don't be a flibberty-gibbet. Not understanding personal finance, the amount of, for most people, the money you make comes from the time you spend. And if you lose that money, you lost that time. Or if you have money and you don't make it work for you, where it could be making more money safely, you lost that money, which is, think about how much time it costs to make that money and pay taxes on that money and so on. So not knowing about personal finance. Let me give you a quick story. I worked for a large company, my first experience for a large company in my 20s early, and they had profit sharing where if you put in 2, 3, 4% of your money, they match it. But you had to sign up for it. For 3 years, I never signed up for it because in my mind, I'm no fool. If I'm going to give them money and they're going to give me money for nothing, nobody gives you nothing for nothing. I was smart. So I was talking to one of my friends at work, and they said, "You're crazy, you're insane. This is free money. It goes into your bank." And they told me how much money they already had in their account from the profit sharing. So I signed up for it finally. This was in 1988. They had the crash like a month later, 3 months later. So I got my quarterly statement, and I lost money. And I lost like $150. So everybody's in the hallway looking at their statement and they're crying. And this person said, "Yeah, they lost money in their account." And his eyes, "I know, I lost $150. And they looked at me like they had lost thousands and thousands of dollars, and I lost 150. They couldn't understand how come I only lost 150. They didn't realize I was stupid and didn't sign up for 3 years. So, yeah, you got to be smart with your finances. Otherwise, you waste that money, which is your time, your life that you spent to make that money. So, yeah, not knowing about personal finance is a huge waste of time, Not knowing what your values are. If you don't know what your values are, you spend a lot of time focusing on things that aren't that important. So, by definition, you're wasting tons of time. Everybody should know, like, what are their top 4 values. Like, if you knock on my door at 4 o'clock in the morning, wake me up out of bed, I can open my eyes and I can tell you what my 4 values are. Number 1 would be to put a lock on my door so you can't come in at 4 o'clock in the morning. But no, number 1, health, physical and mental, wealth, family, and freedom, personal freedom or fun. And I put health and wealth ahead of family because if you are not healthy, or if you're stony broke and live under a bridge, your family has to help you, and you don't want to burden your family. So you want to be able to help them too. So those are my four values. And if I'm spending my time on the internet complaining about Kaiser Wilhelm, I'm not living my life according to my values, and that's a silly life. And it's a waste of time. Addictions, no matter what they are, if you're addicted to something, that's a huge waste of life, because it's just something that's controlling you, and you have no way to stop it. And it's everybody's addicted to something, but some are worse than others. So yeah, if you're addicted to something, it's a huge, gigantic waste of time. Related to addictions, suicide. It's a terrible thing, and we don't talk about it much because it's something we never talk about. It's shameful, but it's pervasive. It's growing. There's a large amount of people who commit suicide every year, and it's not getting smaller. And there isn't anything bigger waste of time than to just take your own life. First of all, God doesn't want you to commit suicide. God wants to kill you in his own special way. You don't want to, if there's some people, if you have an illness, a disease, you're old, and there's no way out, and I'm not going to judge you. I will tell you though, in the history of mankind, there's never been a better time not to commit suicide over medical problems, because every month they're coming out with a new way to improve and get rid of ailments and make better health for people who have things that were terminal. So you want to have hope. And there's people who have been confronted with terrible drama and conflict and wars, or in terrible places, or they've had terrible things they've had to deal with, and their mind is just it's broken, and they just feel no way out. But almost always, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. There's a lot of people who commit suicide over relationships. I would speak to them and tell you that's a giant time waster, because they're, out of all the things you could commit suicide for, it is the most stupid, ridiculous one out of them all. Because if you are in a relationship with someone, once that relationship ends, in the 20th century, the biggest, most famous painter that ever lived was Picasso. When he was in his late teens, early 20s, he was in a relationship. It ended badly. He came this close to killing himself. He didn't kill himself, but he was going to. And I mean, within moments. And so he didn't kill himself. He ended up becoming a world famous painter. I think he was married several times. He had tons of different women. He was a dog. He had tons of beautiful, gorgeous women. His whole life was a giant success. And he came this close to killing himself over a woman that, as years went by, he may have had difficulty remembering her name. I lived someplace when I was young in a house we rented. One of the sons, sad story, of the landlord and landlady was in a relationship with a woman, and he was drinking. He was in the car. He had a rifle. He was going to kill himself. He had the gun pointed. His toe was on the trigger or something. They said that he was at a point where he didn't say he was going to do it. In fact, he was talking like I'm talking now, and the gun goes off. So his toe was on the trigger, and so like he was wanting to do it, but he kind of did it in an accidentally way. And my mom had to go help, didn't have to, but she volunteered to help the landlady clean up the inside of the car where the son's brains were all over the inside of the car over of a relationship. There was a young man in that neighborhood. I didn't see it, but I heard about it. He was in a relationship. He was outside. He shot himself. Now he's on the sidewalk, flopping around like a fish. bullet in his brain. The paramedics come, they take him away. He doesn't die. He ends up living for years, like in a wheelchair, can't move, can't speak, can't talk, and like he's like in a home, tied to a wheelchair, being fed oatmeal and applesauce by minimum wage nurses' aides. So you you don't want to kill yourself over a relationship, um, or most of the time over anything. Like I said, it's a permanent solution to usually a temporary problem, and it's a gigantic time suck. We don't talk about it. We don't address it enough, and whatever we can do to help those people, we need to help those people. It's a giant waste of people's lives. Um, there's also many ways people kill themselves without doing it permanently with an action that takes their life. There's many people that died at 23, but they continued to live till 80. Their whole life was a waste because they stopped caring and living when they were younger because of things that happened to them. So that we addressed that kind of earlier in mental health, but there's many ways to die, and you don't always end in the grave immediately. This is a very somber, morose topic. We need to switch to something different. Um, well, before we do, sometimes people lose somebody. No, always people lose somebody without any way to stop it. Eventually, we all lose somebody, and some people, they start grieving, which is normal, but they never stop grieving. The people who you grieve over don't want you to do that, but there's some people, they waste a lot of their life grieving over somebody, and the people that you care about so much don't want you to, they want you to be happy. They want you to have life and be glad you're alive in the universe. So you can waste a lot of time unnecessarily over grief. But you want the right amount of grief, but you don't want to go on too long. I don't want to end on such a somber. I will tell you the last thing that people do to waste a lot of time is they don't love themselves. A lot of people, they want validation from the love of others, and you can get that sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't stay around. Sometimes it goes away. But if you love yourself, it doesn't go away. You can waste a lot of time by not caring about yourself and loving yourself and taking care of yourself and doing good things for yourself. You can waste a lot of time by trying to get other people to fill needs. So I'm just a guy that makes sandwich toaster videos on YouTube. I don't have any special wisdom or knowledge than anybody else. This is just how I feel about it. That these things I mentioned, like 22 different things, they're gigantic waste of time. Like, who knows how long we're going to be here? Personally, I'm not leaving. I'm going to be held over by popular demand. But you don't want to waste your time. Who knows if we're going to ever be here again or anywhere else. But yeah, don't waste your time. Start doing things a little differently and enjoy the ride. All right, guys. It's a variety channel. You never know what you're going to find on my channel because I never know what I'm going to do. But I appreciate you taking your time today to talk about time. It's been a pleasure. Take care. See you out there.